Equivalent fraction number lines. Let's look at how we can put fractions on a number line, determine if they're equivalent, or basically have the same value, take up the same space. First, you want to draw at least two number lines, and you want to start them at 0, and note that 0 is in the exact same spot, like they line up. And notice that 1 is in the exact same spot, and it lines up. Then what you want to do is just pick your fraction. So first I'm going to do half, so 0 to 1, about halfway, and that is 1/2. And now I'm going to do fourths. And I remember when I do fourths, I go 0 to 1, I split it in half, and then I split each one of those halves into fourths. So now I have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and over here at 1 would be the 4/4, and over here at 1 again would be 2/2. So just as a point, you want to look at 0 equals 0, okay? 1 equals 1, which also means that 2/2 would be the same as 4/4. They have the same value, as long as your distance from 0 to 1 is the same. Basically, if your whole is the same, you're good. So 2/2 and 4/4 are equivalent fractions. Also, you have the 1 right in the middle. 1/2 equals 2/4. See how they line up just like that? That's an equivalent fraction. So we have 1/2 equal to 2/4. I want to put eighths and sixths on here to show you some more equivalent fractions in the number lines. Again, note, all my zeros are lined up, all my ones are lined up. Let's start with drawing eighths. To do eighths, I always split it in half, then I split each half in half again, and then I split each one of these now fourths in half again. So now I have approximately eighths. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. Go ahead and pause, see if you can identify all the equivalent fractions between eighths, fourths, and halves. Alright, so you have 1/8, I go up, and there is no equivalent fraction. I have 2/8, I go up, and it's right even with 1/4. So I know that 2/8 and 1/4 are equivalent, they're the same. 3/8, nothing. 4/8 is equal to 2/4, which means it's also equal to 1/2. So 4/8 you could say is the same as 2/4 or is the same as 1/2. What it's called is actually, the mathematical term is simplest form. As you notice when you go from 4/8, as you move up like these number lines, the higher up you can go, the better, and that's called simplest form. But we don't need to worry too much about that right now. We're looking at 4/8 equals 2/4 equals 1/2. 5/8 is equal to nothing, has no equivalence. 6/8 is equal to 3/4, because they have the same spot. 7/8 has none. And if I had 8/8 on here, that would equal 4/4 and 2/2. Let's move on to sixths. So for sixths, you start out breaking into thirds. You kind of reference the half, move a little bit before. Actually, I need to move a little bit further this way. And a little bit after. And then in between them, you split them all right in half. Now this is tricky because I don't want you to get confused. There are no equivalent fractions between 6 and 8. So I know it might look like some of these 8ths line up with the 6. That's just my bad drawing. There are no equivalent fractions with 6 and 8. There's only 1/6 we really want to look at in this picture. 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6. And that's right here, 3/6 is equal to 4/8, is equal to 2/4, is equal to 1/2. We have 4 fractions that all equal 1/2. 3/6, 4/8, 2/4, and 1/2. All of them equal half. The other 6 don't line up with any of these other fractions, but I'll show you some more in a minute. Here we go. We have 0. We have 1 in the same spot. 1, 2, 3 equal parts, so I'm dealing with thirds. That makes this 1/3, this 2/3. This would be 0/3, this would be 3/3. So number line here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. I'm dealing with 6. It's a little bit neater of a drawing. Took my time with this one. 6 are very tricky to draw. 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6. You can see our 1/2, 3/6. Notice how it doesn't line up with the thirds at all? Because its equivalent fractions are 4/8, 2/4, and 1/2. However, you do notice that 1/3 and 2/6 are equal. And 2/3 and 4/6. These two are equal. They line right up with each other. So here's some more equivalent fractions. At this point, I've shown you every equivalent fraction in 3rd grade. Learning target. I can identify equivalent fractions using a number line. So you have number line 1, 0 to 1. This is broken into fourths. Just have 2/4 labeled as both 2/4 and r. Number line 2, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal spaces. My question for you is, what fraction is equivalent to r on number line number 2? So here's r, 2/4. What fraction is equivalent on number line 2?